Good evening. I'm Neil Thompson. I'm the president of the Kanata Beaverbrook Community Association, and this is the 2025 annual general meeting of the Kanata Beaverbrook Community Association. We'll have a bunch of presentations by what we're up to, what financial situation is, what we have planned for the next year or two, plus also presentations on a number of different topics, including a green and basically community open house on new ideas and things to do in 2025. That's happening on Saturday, May the 10th at the community center, starting at what, 9 o'clock, Rob?
9 o'clock, yes.
Yeah, 9 a.m. at the community center at 1002 Beaverbrook Road. So I expect Kathy Curry to join us fairly shortly. And we will cut over to a presentation by her at that point. So basically, the agenda for this evening is Kathy Curry to tell us about things happening in Beaverbrook and general issues happening around the city that affect people here. There'll be an update on the ClubLink and KGPC situation, which is currently in the throes of getting organized and getting all the affidavits and legal briefs, etc., on the Supreme Court of Canada application. Also asked Mike Thomas to come and talk to us about what's going on with First Kanata Scouts. He's now the co-leader or co-chair, I guess, for the First Kanata Scouts and all the various troops and cub groups, Scouters Ventures, etc., to make it up. Rob is going to talk about the various green activities we're doing, tree inventory, sustainability issues. We'll do the president's report and treasurer's report, talk about the community center renovations, then into the usual things, which are the proposed slate of officers and directors and open positions, and any other topics should people wish to bring up. So what Kathy Curry will be talking about, just to give you some précis, is sidewalk completion on Varley, the Heritage District study. I actually have a question into Kathy Curry as to where that is, so hopefully she'll be able to bring some updates on that. Beaver Pond Pathways, medical client, possibly in the tech park. Some details on that. They're setting up a science STEM programs in the tech park for grades 11 and 12. I'm sure that's connected to both All Saints and Earl March high schools. I know there's an urban boundary expansion application to put yet more houses up farther up March Road, which was approved and then yanked back, and now it's back for approval. Discussion of what the change to buses and LRT. What the fate is for Campo Drive. I'm expecting possibly there's some news about that in terms of widening. That was always the plan, is for Campo Drive to be 4 lanes. If you ever look and you're driving along and you look at the south side of the road, it's funny how the sidewalk and everything is quite a ways back. That's because the intent was always to put in another 2 lanes. So at this point, I'm going to move straight on to talking about the golf course update on Kanata Golf Course and the ClubLink situation. As you may or may not be aware, there was a decision handed down by the Court of Appeal to the last appeal to a second, this was the second appeal to the Superior Court of Ontario. In that case, ClubLink received what they wanted to hear and not what the KBCA and the city wanted to hear. And there was a lot of discussion about the next step on that, which is that the appeal process of the Superior Court of Ontario has been exhausted. And the only other option at this point is, short of the city basically refusing on issues like technical grounds, like stormwater management, that the next step in there would be to apply to the Supreme Court of Canada for leave on the topic of basic contract law in Canada, which is something that there was fair bet by both the city and the KGPC legal team that was something that is in the public interest. You can't go to the Supreme Court with something specific to yourself. It's got to be something of a general public interest. And so the city made a decision in a meeting we had for the KGPC in early February. It was announced by Mark Sutcliffe that, in fact, the city had made a pretty quick decision that they were going to apply for leave. They are the party. The KGPC in this case is not a direct party. It was up to the city to apply, and they made the decision at the meeting on February 4th. So that's good. That set the machinery in motion. So that has gone to the point where right now there are legal briefs and responses being sent to the Supreme Court of Canada. It's basically an addition. Once all the documents have been settled and the positions and responses from all parties have been completed, then the Supreme Court of Canada, in some period of time, whether the appeal is going to be heard or not heard, it may be 3 to 6 months. So it takes time to wait to see if the Supreme Court of Canada will hear it. And if that goes ahead, the hearing won't be until 2026 at the earliest. So it's a long, long haul. So things are at the final stages for that. Again, ClubLink predictably has decided to make an objection to the KGPC appearing, which is entirely on par with the legal team for ClubLink. They always try to find some way of either getting the city or the KGPC to spend more money or try to block. It doesn't matter how faint the hope is that they will actually get that. They just want to chew up people's legal costs because they've got like a team of 8 people that are constantly on that. So any questions on what the golf course situation is? I do have it from attending the meetings. I'm on the board as a non-voting member. Peter Chapman is on the board, and so is Kevin McCarthy. So Beaverbrook is well represented in the group that's looking after the golf course question. At this point, nobody's asking for money. There's more than enough money in the bank for what's going on at this stage. That may change once we have a better understanding of what's going to happen at whether the court case will go ahead at the Supreme Court. But at this point, very quiet. So things are just going to go through, and we'll find out in 3 to 6 months. Mike, you want to take the stage and talk about First Kanata Scouts?
Neil, I just noticed Kathy Curry's online right now.
Okay. All right, Kathy, you want to go up first before Mike?
If Mike doesn't mind, I hate to do that, but we have this because this meeting was supposed to be last week without the power outage. It would have been, but we have the mosquito meeting here in the Mille Lacs Center right now. So if you don't mind, that'd be great if I could go now.
All right, your slide is up, so the floor is yours.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mike. So sidewalk completion, I think as I said in my newsletter, if you read it, there were definitely some people who thought this was going to be a terrible idea. But we've heard from some of those same people that they actually are very happy with those sidewalks on Varley, Leacock, and Tarrant. And but as you probably watched, it was a bit of a mess. And this is how these things go. And there's still more to come. Like they still have some cleanup to do. They have a section they didn't finish. Your president, Neil, was out there talking to the actual project manager and some of the construction people and got some of the inside story on that. But it is the case, when the city hires contractors to do things, sometimes the contractors have problems. We also tried to get that in before the winter, right? So there was a little bit of a mad dash at the end. So that hence the reason why I think there's so much still to clean up. But anyway, if you haven't seen them already, they've been out there trying to clean up, finish off the last little bits. And the project manager for that project, his name is Joseph Lawley. I've heard this from residents, and I know just from us dealing with Joseph, he's been fabulous. The second you communicate with him at all, he's like right on it, shows up in people's driveways, half an hour later. So if you have any issues or anybody that's still concerned or complaining or whatever, either let us know or, we can give you Joseph Lawley's email directly. And he's the project manager. He'll go out and sort anything out. So any questions at all, let us know. and he will get right on that. I'll just go through them all, Neil, and then happy to take questions. I don't have to rush back to this mosquito thing, but I just also wanted to let you know it was taking place. Heritage study. So for Beaverbrook, I think, Marianne, you will know that back in the day, you guys asked for that. And it finally, they're looking at the feasibility of doing a heritage designation for Beaverbrook, based on Bill Tarrant's design and all of the components of it. Now, Neil has been an active member of this group working with city staff on this study. And one of the challenges that we've had is that the province in the last probably 4 or 5 years has changed the rules for heritage designations. I think the province thinks they're sometimes more trouble than they're worth, but we believe that it would be a good idea to have a heritage designation for Beaverbrook, but not the kind where people's houses then would not be able to change at all. Like that, the heritage designation where you have to keep the windows the exact same and nothing can change. People tend to not like that heritage designation, but the other options are not as obvious to us from the 9 criteria that you have to look at. I think you have to meet a couple of them. So I spoke to Councillor Ralston King, who is the councillor in charge of Rockcliffe. And I said to him, how does Rockcliffe have their heritage designation? And they do, in fact, have some parts of Rockcliffe where you can't change the windows, right? You can't change the brick. You can't change anything. But he said, but there's other components of Rockcliffe that they just sort of have as the culture and the way the district looks and the feel and just the character of the whole neighborhood that are a part of their heritage designation. So those are the kind of conversations certainly Neil's been having, I've been having with staff. So we're hopeful that it would be more of that, the look and feel of what Bill Tarrant wanted, right? Rock outcroppings, nice, lots of greenery, natural divisions like hedges that divide lots, and those types of features, right? The lights that are on everyone's lawns that aren't the big, glaring lights overhead, no overhead wires like that, those types of things that were all part of his design. So, but Neil is doing, I know because I've seen his updates, but we will also keep you updated. And whenever anything is about to come to committee, there may be opportunities for any of you who might want to delegate to a committee and make some other points, but we'll keep you posted as we go. Beaver Pond pathways. So the pathways that go around the Beaver Pond will all be redone this spring, summer, fall. They are in really bad shape. I know there's a lot of pathways that are in bad shape. We do them as we can, but the Beaver Pond ones were crumbling, and there were actually a couple of incidents where people were injured, a couple of people quite badly. So they became a higher priority than other pathways, even though there are other pathways that are not great. These ones were, more dangerous than others. So they will be redone. Now, that is where the park run takes place every Saturday, the park run walk. So they know that the pathways will be done, and so they're working on that. So if you're a park run person or a park run walker, you should stay tuned on how they feel they're going to manage that park run while the construction takes place. Staff realize that there are a lot of trees along that pathway that they're going to have to be very careful about the roots for the trees that line that path. So anyway, they'll be as careful as they can, but just so you know, that is being done. Now, this next one is I could give you a very long version of the story, but as Marianne knows, like often city councilors just get invited to something and you think, oh, okay, it's an interesting new business and I'll go have a photo taken, whatever. Well, I went to this thing, it was in my calendar, and I literally thought it was a new eye clinic or something. So I went to 300 Leggett Drive, so right in the tech park on the corner of Leggett and Hertzberg, right? So right on that very corner, the old Nanometrics building. And I drive up and I'm thinking, I wonder what is this going on? I thought it was like an eye clinic. Anyway, I get in there and these doctors from Ottawa U say to me, okay, we want to show you this new medical clinic we're going to have here. And they lay out their plans. And their plans are for 25 family doctors, a blood and lab clinic, a pharmacy, and X-ray and ultrasound. It's coordinated with U Ottawa's medical school, and Carleton University down the road has the new nursing program in the tech park, which is very tech focused, 3-year brand new nursing program, the first nursing program, new university nursing program the province has opened in 20 years or 25 years. So it's all beyond exciting, right in the tech park. So, we're so short of family doctors. I was like, have I landed on another planet or what's happening here? And they said, no, we're bringing doctors from the UK, from the United States, where now I guess it's very easy for doctors to come over and just start up. They've changed all the rules, and there's still some accreditation, of course. But yeah, so they'll be opening, believe it or not, because all they have to do is internal renovations to the Nanometrics building. They'll be starting this September. So unbelievable, but true. And so they will be rostering, there will be opportunities for family doctors. So as you can imagine, I left that meeting and told everybody I know. And so MP Suds has been over there. MPP McCrinnon's been over there. The mayor just went for a big tour. I talked to Alex Munter. Alex Munter was put in a call to Jane Philpott. So then the doctors didn't even know about the Carleton University program. So I connect them with Carleton University. So now the university nursing students are going to be doing their clinical placements. They're just going to walk from 350 legged drive down to 300 legged drive. So all that to tell you that was an unbelievable thing. So stay tuned, opening this September, 300 legged drive. All right. Next thing was that as the city has designated the tech park as a special economic district, the city hired Bloomberg to do a review of what a special economic district could be in terms of being really an innovation district. Because there's innovation districts all over the world, and they all have certain components. They all have universities and colleges, and obviously a lot of companies, everything else. But they all have school, like kindergarten, grade 7, to 12. They have schools that are not university college level, but lower, right within them. So anyway, I approached the Ottawa Carleton District School Board and I said, what do you think about having a STEM high school program right in the tech park, knowing that the Earl needs, the Earl's getting an addition, AY's getting an addition, West Carleton's overcrowded, All Saints is overcrowded. So maybe you could have some space. They said, wow, that sounds fascinating. We do have the specialist high skills major program that we could try to think about in those terms. Then I talked to Terry Matthews, Terry Matthews said, I will give the school board free space at 350 Leggett, the old Mitel building. So I went to the director of the school board and I said, okay, now you've got free space. What do you think? They were like, we're in. So they've worked with the province's regulations. And so what they're going to do is they're going to open a program that's called a SWAI, SWAI, School Within an Industry is what it's called. So there will be grade 11 and 12 students taking STEM programming right in the tech park starting this September. So there'll only be 20 spots. We'll try to do 50% women, girls and 50% boys. Science, technology, engineering, and math. And the CEOs and companies can come in and work with the teachers. There'll be 2 teachers from the school board. And the kids can go and do co-op placements in the tech park companies. And they can go visit and see the technologies that's taking place in the 570 companies that are in the tech park. So that's very exciting. Urban boundary application. Okay, so you know how we had an official plan process and there was going to be extra land added in up going towards Carp, right? Up towards Dunrobin, up March Road. And then the councillors 5 years ago said, no, let's not do that because March Road is not going to be widened by then. Let's add in land over in the east end of the city, Taywin, the Indigenous development. And that's how the vote went. So the urban boundary was not extended up to March Road. Fine. So then the province took our official plan and said, no, we're going to add that land anyway. So they put that land going up to the Dunrobin Road back in the official plan. Then Ford had some challenges with the, wetlands and the Greenbelt in Toronto, if you will recall, in an RCMP investigation. And then they said, okay, forget it. Let's take those lands back out again. So then no longer were the lands in the urban boundary for Ottawa. So we all thought we were all fine. Then the province made a rule that said, in fact, an individual developer could apply to add in a section of land, but cities will have to figure out how that's going to be done. So our city council said if one developer wants to do such a thing, it's going to cost them $1.8 million because this is not a part of the official plan process. We don't even need additional lands according to our city report. We've already added enough land in. If a developer wants us to even contemplate that, they need to pay $1.8 million to do that. Well, Claridge, Minto, and some other developers that are in part of that land ownership area paid the $1.8 million and put in the application. So we now have to consider this application. So all that to say, there will be, a public meeting. Obviously, there is a call for feedback from residents. The reality is that section of land is technically in Ward 5. So it's not Ward 4, but when if it were to be approved, new houses were to be built, then it would become part of Ward 4 because it would be within the urban boundary. Ward 5 is really rural West Carleton. So anyway, stay tuned on that. If you are interested in that process, there will be a lot more to come on that. New ways to bus. Obviously, the end of April, we got new bus routes. Some people are happy, some people are furious. One of the reasons why we did it was to make more of a hub and spoke model in preparation for when Moody Drive opens. However, because Ford has announced that he will upload all the costs of the LRT, that is really taking billions of dollars of costs off the city's hands, right? That is just the gift, from heaven. So it is actually unreal that we have that in front of us, and that will mean that we have more money for busing, right? So, I mean, yeah, I keep telling people I keep spending this money 10 different ways, but of course, extra money that is from LRT being uploaded would go back into transit. So, they will take over, the province has promised take over the construction of all the rest of the LRT we have going now and have agreed to do the expansions. So in my opinion, that means, stage 3, right? Eagleson, Terry Fox, and then up around by the Canadian Tire Center is what was planned. So they will be in charge of that. We don't know the details of it. According to our chief financial officer, these things take about 18 months to get all the legal work done on, but it's all good news. Campo Drive. So people keep asking me, because as Marianne will recall, Campo Drive was to be widened back in I think it was in the Transportation Master Plan for 2013, right? In 2016, they talked about it again, and it's never been widened, right? The space is there to widen it. But when we look at the Transportation Master Plan consultations right now, and we held an evening here about a month ago, I guess, you can see that Campo Drive widening is on it, but it's seen as a later stage. So I know people are waiting so patiently for this Campo Drive to be widened because the traffic is unbelievable in the mornings and in the afternoons. But it's not in the top priorities for widening. But they have committed to doing some improvements. Like there are some missing links, some bike lanes that just stop, that are not actually very safe. I get a lot of complaints about that. Obviously there's traffic lights and stuff that they can change the timing. So which they've done. They keep going back and doing other studies. But I just wanted to generally say that to people that Campo Drive is not going to be widened anytime soon because it's not even on the immediate plan list. Anyway, Stacy Drive is our big repaving this summer. So, and I don't actually think it's from Taryn. I think I'll have to double check. I think it's just from Casson Way. What's the street? Is it Albert Casson Way? And then back to the, where the street ends. So that's the part that they're repaving.
Yeah, that's definitely in really rough shape. I mean, the other pavement.
It is.
So, yeah.
So anyway, I could tell you 500 other things, but those are the things I thought I would tell you, but happy to answer any questions.
Just one thing I'd like to note, both for who people are attending and who are watching the recording, one of the key steps in the heritage study will be to convene a community discussion and consideration group. The city will not impose heritage designated status without support from the community. So they typically somewhere between 20 and 30 people to bring their views to the table and to look at the proposals that are coming from the city. Everything I've heard so far from both Greg, who's the lead on this project at the city heritage planning staff, and Leslie, who's the general manager of that group, there's nothing I've heard from them saying anybody would say, well, okay, that's what we have now. There's nothing new here. But it will afford us, a certain number of protections in terms of people coming in and attempting to put in a 16-story building right in the middle of a heritage designation area. So there are some benefits that I think they're certainly well worth considering, but still waiting for a proposal in terms of how to proceed from the heritage group. So hopefully we'll hear soon.
Yeah, thank you so much for Neil for all your work on that. Like, I know you've met with him a number of times, and so I really appreciate that. And I know, I'm sure Marianne, I think they reached out to you to ask some questions. You probably worked with them in the past anyways, but it's, maybe you're thinking, yeah, we worked on this so many years ago. I can't believe it's only happening now.
Well,
It was promised when I was still on council, frankly. And like, I was on the Heritage Committee for a while as well. And it was sweet. So they did do an evaluation of a lot of the houses, and they chose my house to be one. They wanted to have certain models to show what the models were like. But that doesn't, only thing you're not allowed to do under that rule was you had to get permission to take the whole house down.
Oh, okay.
And that's the only restriction. So I've been quite positive about how you can do it. Our church is heritage too, and I work within that quite a lot. And it's not, it's sometimes a bit of a headache, but sometimes it's beneficial too.
Mhm.
what I would note on that topic is Chris Tarrant of the Tarrant family fame is also been involved. And I would expect Chris to participate in that and a number of other people. So there's at least a team of about 6 that I know would appear. Chris, you want to say any words on this topic?
Thanks, Dale. I appreciate being asked to be involved and enjoyed watching the video recording of the meeting you had with staff, and I've given you and staff my input, so I'm anxious to go to the next stages.
Great. Thank you so much for this, Chris, too. Like, it never ceases to amaze me how many really helpful people live in, well, all of Kanata North, but Beaverbrook for sure. So thank you so much.
All right, Kathy, you done for the evening?
That's all I have to update you on. So if I don't have any other questions, I'll go back and listen to the mosquitoes. I will tell you that not that many people showed up for the mosquito building meeting, but I'm hopeful that means that people were pretty happy with the program last year. I know there were some areas that had more mosquitoes, but I think overall they're finding any new areas where there may be like little water pockets that people weren't aware of. So they're getting more and more knowledgeable about every single nook and cranny of Kanata North. So that was evident from their presentation anyway. But even still, on that note, if you have any questions or concerns as they go ahead, I mean, the helicopters have been dropping the stuff and the drones have been out. Any questions, we have the email address for GDG Environment. They're very responsive. They get out there right away if you have an issue. So let us know.
Are there very many areas that refused to let them in this year? That was a problem we had at one point.
No, the only thing we just talked about at this meeting, though, Marianne, was that the NCC is part of our problem, right? So
I know.
They can't do any drops on that NCC land, and that is one of the mosquito breeding areas. So, but no, I think there are even fewer areas that have said no now, like including the whole elk farm area, right? There's no elk there anymore, right on Old Carp Road. So there's more areas I think that they are able to get at. So
I did meet with the NCC on it over time, and they wanted to see the results of the studies we did. But when they had the studies back, and then they would decide whether they would or not. But they keep putting it off, making a decision, and it's going to be very difficult to deal with them. But it's a positive thing for us if we want to try to stop development on the green belt and the green spaces, because they don't want to have any more drainage going through there either. So that can affect the development.
yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I know that Carp also wanted to try to get in on this because they have the Carp River watersheds right there, and there's so much breeding ground there. But there wasn't enough critical mass there. Their property taxes were going to go up like significantly for this levy. Like if they added a levy on, you mean? Not taxes, but an actual levy. So anyway, but I think they're still mulling that over. But if they were to get the program, it would help us quite a lot. So anyway, we carry on.
All right, Mike. Thank you, Kathy.
Thanks again, Mike.
Problem. So
I loved your bike sale.
thanks. Thank you for visiting it. So my name's Mike Thomas. I'm a scouter with First Kanata Scout Group. And Neil had asked me to come by and tell you a little bit what's going on with us, since Kanata Beaverbrook Community Association is what we call our community sponsor or partner. Okay, so I'll start off by just letting you know we've got about 104 youth. sort of 2 beaver colonies, about 40 kids. That's 5 to 7 years old. 1 cub pack, 8 to 10 years old, and 1 scout troop, about 30 scouts. They're 11 to 14, and then 11 venturers, and they're 14 to 18, and about 31 scouters. That's the adult volunteers, and they're registered for 2025. Scouts Canada is a little bit strange right now. So what happens is people register or pay for the calendar year, but the actual sort of scouting year runs from September, like not just the school year, runs from September to August. Okay. First off, the other thing I should say is thanks for all the community support. Honestly, we really would not have a very successful scout group. A lot of community support from KBCA, but also from other places, like including, we sort of recruit also from Kanata Lakes. We got a ton of support from there. Lots of people helping us out. So we really appreciate it. So we have some linking, or what we call community involvement, things that we're doing in cooperation with KBCA. First one was maintenance of the Stephen Leacock Community Rink. So we kind of look after organizing that on behalf of KBCA. We have a mix of volunteers from our scout group, but also community volunteers. And actually this year was a really good year for the rinks. It was open for 53 days, which is a lot better than the past 2 years. And it, the volunteer hours put in about 172 hours to keep it going. And it seemed to be very successful. Heard a lot of positive feedback from people. The second thing we're doing is, you mentioned the heritage designation. So Neil had actually asked us if we could get involved in helping to inventory the Beaverbrook Park signs, basically take photos of them, record their condition. So we set that up. We're actually starting to do it with our scout group. Probably be doing quite a bit of it over the summer. The idea is just they visit, they take a look at the sign, they write down what it looks like and what condition it is in. And then hopefully it'll either be repaired or recorded. We're also helping out by working with staining the Beaverbrook signs that come in and out of the community, and that's going relatively well. Again, thanks to Neil, he's sort of gotten us the stain, and it's a fairly easy job for our older kids to do. And we also did our first Kanata Beaverbrook, bike exchange and sale. That's basically where we do a consignment sale. In the past, we've actually taken in bikes and fixed them. Like we had a bike repair team, but we had to move out of our accommodations. So right now we're mostly just doing consignment bikes, and that's more helping the community. It's a bit more of a community service where you bring in your bike, you sell it, and you can buy a bike. This year was actually very successful. We ended up having to go to Jacques Chiron because Mille Lacs still had ice in. That's our normal location. But the numbers, there was a lot of people showed up and a lot of bikes were sold. And again, thanks to the community for spreading the word about the sale and also for coming out. Does anybody have any questions about community involvement? Because that's sometimes something where we're linked up with KBCA. We're doing stuff that's involved with the community. So tell you a little bit about our activities. So in all the different levels, so they have each of these sections kind of does activities. So a fair amount of outdoor stuff. Generally, what will happen is they'll go camping or have a sleepover in each of the seasons. So they'll have one in fall, one in spring, and one in winter, and sometimes in summer. And so it's normally the older sections that will do stuff in summer. They'll also tend to do a park cleanup in spring and fall, and they've been relatively successful doing that. Right now, we have 2 sections that would be cleaning parks in the Beaverbrook area. Some of our sections meet in other places, and our scout troop and our venturers actually look after Bill Tarrant Park. Although there's a lot of other people who are cleaning that park because it's fairly big. It needs a lot of cleaning. We also do a bunch of activities. Last year, we were fortunate in that they had something called Camp Ree, where quite a large number of scouts from all over Voyager Council get together at Fitzroy Provincial Park. And they have a large sort of camping event over 2 days. That was actually the last year that'll happen probably for a while, simply because our council is getting quite large and we're having trouble organizing events that are just Ottawa specific. We also do a fall campfire, and that's something where we kind of get together as a group and meet to do the campfire. We're doing we're probably going to do this spring, a group camp where we're going to get together at Baxter Conservation Area and do a camp. And we're also doing a fair amount of STEM. So I'm kind of excited to see that they're sort of introducing that into high school as well and having that over. So we're having a fair amount of STEM activities coming in, both for beavers, for cubs, and for scouts, and for venturers. And there's quite a bit in Canada that actually has resources for doing that, like robotics, computers, programming. It's a very good location for that, and it's something that our parents are very interested in. Same with a lot of the youth too. Okay. And should mention that I mentioned sleepovers. Now, for our younger sections, what used to happen, especially for beavers, is they would typically only camp once a year. So they would come out for us for the spring camp or this camporee, because they typically need their parents to come with them when we're camping out in tents. As you can imagine, they're sometimes a little bit nervous, and also it's a little bit hard for us to supervise them if there's an emergency. This past year, we've sort of changed to doing something a bit different. Our scout troop had always done a sleepover at the Beaverbrook Community Center, right? And it's been very successful. It's mostly a movie and popcorn night for the scouts. But what had happened is the beaver colonies had realized that that's actually a way for them to camp. So basically, they're setting up tents inside the building and sleeping there without having to having the sort of problems they have of booking a campsite. So both the beaver colonies did that this year, and actually our Cub Pack did it in the winter because they had too many young kids. So that's a way where your association is actually helping us out a lot, because this has allowed us to kind of take a lot of the kids out for an overnight camp, which they really enjoy, and do it in a way that allows the youngest ones to participate, even though the weather isn't great or isn't perfect for them. Aside from that, it's been a very successful year. I should mention with our numbers, we're actually back up to where we were before COVID. So for the past 5 or 6 years, we've gone down quite a bit, but we actually now are back up, and we have a more normal distribution. So one thing to understand during COVID is we still had lots of scouts, like the 11 to 14-year-olds, still had lots of venturers. We typically didn't have very many beavers or cubs, because that was the age range where parents were most concerned about them coming to in-person activities. So as you can tell, now that it's sort of spread out to be more normal, where we have more or less the same of cubs, beavers, and scouts, it's actually making for a much more healthy sort of scout group. And again, thanks to the community, because they actually, for us, most of our recruiting is by word of mouth. We're actually not putting up a lot of signs. We're not advertising a lot on the internet. We're mostly just getting people by friends telling friends. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask. That's pretty well my presentation. Hopefully that covered everything you needed.
Well, one thing that came to mind, if Kathy, there is some vacant space up in the tech park, not because it's not growing, it's because in many cases, a lot of those tech companies outgrow the space they're in. So they need to move to something bigger. So what I would suggest is figure out what you need for the bike repair in terms of space, which may be, some storage space for bikes and whatever else, and put that into, Terry Matthews and other people who are property managers through Kathy, and see if, just put a thing, if something comes up, then, see what can be done on that front. So, yeah, Kathy's the right lever to go through because she has been setting those up for the schools, and you're falling into the same category. So I would just figure out what you need and make the ask.
Thanks, Neil. That's a good suggestion. One thing I should mention is Neil mentioned that I was sort of co-chair. So what's happened with our scout group is the other thing that happened with us is that we're looking for a new group commissioner. They're sort of the person in charge of the scout group. And in the interim, we had to sort of split up the tasks just to continue going. So, sometimes it's a long process to find somebody. So I actually I ended up doing this because I'm sort of been put in charge of the contacting KBCA and talking to them. So you'll find that we may not have just one person doing stuff. If you're dealing with us, it'll be a mix. But the idea is just to make sure that we can continue going on while we're waiting to find a group commissioner. And it's a bit more of a standard now with Scouts Canada, because a lot of people don't have time to be just the person in charge and doing everything. So what they'll tend to do is they often end up in a situation where there's sort of like 3 or 4 people splitting the tasks to allow the Scout group to keep going. Any other questions?
Nope. Thanks, Mike.
Thank
you. So, all right, Green Beaverbrook. Rob, you're on.
Thanks, Neil. So this first slide, there's a picture on the left that says tree inventory in process or in progress. And that's been a key communication vehicle for us. Obviously, because we're going door to door and interacting with various residents day by day through the growing season, clear communication about what we're doing and when we're coming and what it's all about is important. And this simple sign that we carry with us as we work down the street has been very effective. Next slide, please. So Beaverbrook, our neighborhoods is one of the KBCA's long-standing projects. We've been doing this since 2018. Very well received because of everybody's interest in the trees of Beaverbrook, and for most people, that's part of the reason they moved into this community. So what we're doing is really trying to encourage the stewardship of this precious resource we have, which is our urban forest, and building community interest in the renewal and the maintenance of the trees that we have. So that's working well. And we've done about between 500 and 600 houses, 9 parks. So that represents about 7 clusters, to use the old nomenclature when we talked about Beaverbrook as being made up of a series of clusters. And the bottom part of this slide references us partnering with other groups. We work closely with other community associations throughout the city, and an organization which helps to pull that large group of community associations together, which is called CAFES, Community Action for Environmental Sustainability. We also work with the Enviro Center, Ecology Ottawa, the forestry group in the city. It's a powerful group of various talents. Next slide, please. So this is a quick summary of what we did last year. We held a tree inventory training course, which we have done since we started. So that happens in the last week of May, first week of June, followed by the door-to-door collection through the months of summer. So last year we did Riopel and part of Varley. We also resurveyed Pentland Place, which had originally been done in the first year or two. We're still processing that data to see what has changed over those years. Because of course this is meant to be an ongoing process to maintain the stewardship of the forest. You can see various workshops we've participated in, and we do provide input to the city forestry's tree selection and planting process. Because we've got more information on any individual tree than the city does, we can advise as to how can we expand the diversity by species or age or location or density, all those sorts of things. What else here? We also work with a couple of universities as their community partners, Carleton and U of T. That gives us access to environmental science students to work on a project over one of their semesters. It's usually in the fall. So last year it was protecting our urban forest. It's pretty cool to have the chance to work with some of the young students that are looking at the same things we are. I guess that's it for that. Next slide, please. This is my last one. So this year, we are trying something different. We want to expand the variety of the programs that we support and bring in more volunteers so that we can have more impact. So to that end, we had a brainstorming session, and then we're having a further open house next Saturday, the 10th of May, to invite any residents, any people that want to come and talk to us about programs they'd like to see us work on as a community association, and what would they like to participate in as well. So we've got some good ideas already, and I can mention some of those. So one idea that's come up is to establish Alice Wilson Woods as a group called the Friends of Alice Wilson Woods, and really build up some stewardship guidelines. But supporting the city, obviously the city is responsible for that property, but we've got lots of ideas that that could be used to enhance what's there, like removal of invasive species, tagging specific trees for educational purposes, really trying to increase the health of what's there and restock where appropriate. There's a lot of dead wood, windfalls, some widow makers. So, and we've got some interested people in helping to sort some of those improvements out. A few other things we've talked about is educational. So how do you take care of your trees? How do you plant a tree? And then what do you do for the next critical 3 years? There are lots of workshops that are possible through the master gardeners of Ottawa Carleton or other groups. Pests and diseases, community gardening, and tree ID is a popular thing. That's one thing we learned in the neighborhoods course is how to identify the trees, obviously, and then look for the health of the tree. Another thing that came up the other day was we all walk around the trails that we have everywhere, but we've talked over the years about the need for benches. So if we had somebody that would take on that task of doing an inventory of where we could put new benches in and then work with the city to make that happen. It's just one of those things that takes somebody to focus on it for a while. I think that's about it. We're definitely, so the focus this year, and it's really this week, is to hear some good ideas from residents who I'm sure have some and weren't sure how to share with us and would like to come out and participate. So we're going to be talking more on Saturday about things we've done. We'll have some examples and people that have been doing this for the past 7 or 8 years. So I think you'd find it useful. So that's Saturday from 9 to 11 at the community center, the Beaverbrook Community Center. So I hope to see some of you there. That's it. Thanks for giving me the time.
Thanks, Rob. Do you want to talk about the tree inventory to date, or?
Oh, okay. Did I skip over that? Oh, that's right. Yeah. So the tree inventory will be on May 24th. I think it says the 25th here, but that'll be, we changed it from a 2-day to a 1-day course. So it's less of a bite out of the scarce summer weekends. So the 24th of May, it'll be an all-day thing. And once you've gone through that course, you'll be able to get started on working with a team of, usually it's 3 people, going house to house, identifying the trees and plotting them on a map of that property, and then looking at various health concerns like the structure or the leaves, the roots, that kind of stuff. How crowded are they? And we also look for plantable spots because, of course, we're trying to encourage people to continue to replace trees that have aged out or have a problem. And there also is a new program the city's sponsoring called Plant Your Place, which is it's a joint initiative between the Enviro Center and the City of Ottawa, where they'll provide a tree. You just have to plant it and look after it. So that's called Plant Your Place. You can look it up. And I think that's, yeah, as far as neighborhoods, we'll definitely have lots of information on Saturday about that. And we can talk to you and show you some pictures of what we've seen over the years. It's interesting, you meet some of the great people that live in this community and how committed they are to maintaining what we have. It's motivating. Thanks for the time, Neil.
Thank you. Let me just skim through here. All right, let's cover off. Pam, you want to go ahead on your piece, and then I'll do the usual president stuff.
Hi, sure. Thank you very much. So I was appointed as a new cafes board member from Kanata at their March AGM. So I'm a new board member of cafes, or as it's called, Community Action for Environmental Sustainability. And I live in Beaverbrook. I moved here with my husband and our daughter last year. And my daughter lives in Montreal most of the time, although she's home here with us now. And I'm recruiting my husband to attend the meeting on Saturday, by the way. So in any case, if you're not familiar with cafes, it was formed in Ottawa in 2010. And it is not a charity, but it is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization based in Ottawa. And it focuses on building environmental leadership through our growing network of over 250 community associations like the KBCA, plus environmental groups and individual Ottawans as well. CAFE's members, including the KBCA, span across the city in rural, suburban, and urban neighborhoods. Our executive director, whom you might know about, is Angela Keller Herzog, and she is a trained economist with over 2 decades of experience in program management and policy development. CAFES plays an important role in community engagement and environmental advocacy at City Hall. For example, it organized the mayoral environmental debates in 2022. Last year, CAFES supported stronger zoning provisions for trees and green spaces in the new comprehensive zoning bylaw, supported an integrated green infrastructure approach to stormwater management in the infrastructure master plan, and supported less restrictive permitting and zoning regulations for battery energy storage systems and renewable energy generation facilities. CAFES offers ongoing collaboration and information sharing through caucuses on climate, trees and green space, and waste and the circular economy. Each year, CAFES sells Ottawans low-cost tree saplings to be planted in backyards, as well as distributes hundreds of native pollinator plants and plants dozens of trees on public land. Back on January 30th, CAFES hosted a well-attended networking event at Hub 350 in the Kanata North Tech Park about how battery energy storage systems can help improve our power reliability. The event brought together about 100 business and community leaders, such as Neil Thompson, representatives from Ottawa Hydro, and last but not least, 6 Ottawa City councillors. In fact, our own Kanata North councillor, Kathy Curry, gave the opening speech. So as you can see here, there are a few examples of past KBCA work with CAFES. For example, 15-minute neighborhood engagement project. Maybe Neil and Rob were involved in that. So that was back in before my time, fall 2021. And so KBCA representatives worked with students from Carleton University that fall on kind of putting together a 15-minute neighborhood community engagement project. And that included some deliverables, such as a brochure to inform residents of Beaverbrook about opportunities to get involved in the community, and a map showing the community, such as biking and walking routes, as well as locations of small businesses in our area. Also, coffee houses on sustainability. Probably Neil and Rob were involved with those. 6 or so meetings, coffee houses on sustainability back in the first half of 2024, bringing together community members to discuss transitions to more sustainable lifestyles. And then the last one, the 2023 Climate Resiliency Community Dialogues, those occurred in 2023. That were organized by CAFES, kind of facilitated by CAFES in different communities around Ottawa, including one held in May 2023 for Kanata North. And Neil and Rob and maybe 3 other people were representing Beaverbrook at that community dialogue. And so there's a link that I put into the chat to a report about the Kanata North Community Dialogue, and you can click on that and see what they talked about. And it's a really well put together report. So I won't go into detail. You can just click on it in the chat and learn more about it. You can also going on to ongoing KBCA CAFES projects. So the Mother's Day backyard tree planting. That of course will happen on Mother's Day this Sunday, May 11th. And I put in the chat a link to it if you're interested in buying a tree. And one per household is allowed, only $5 per tree. And So that is something that the KBCA has helped out with, I guess, in an ongoing way. And then the Green Space Caucus as well. I don't know, maybe Rob has attended that regularly, right? The Tree and Green Space Caucus that is sponsored by cafes and that many community environmental leaders attend.
Yeah, that's true. It's a regularly held Zoom call where anybody who's part of that caucus, and it includes a lot of people that are doing the kind of tree inventory work that we are, or looking at new plantings, get together and share ideas, because it's always quite encouraging to find out you're not the only person that's interested in this topic, and you can learn from each other across, especially with cafes, because I think it represents 150 different groups. Not all with the same interest.
Yeah, absolutely. Community associations plus environmental groups. That's why we've changed our name from Community Associations for Environmental Sustainability to Community Action for Environmental Sustainability as more groups join the cafes. So I think I'll end it here. Remember that I put some links in chat in case you want to go on to the website, or buy a tree for Mother's Day for $5, or read the Kanata North Community or Climate Resiliency Community Dialogue Report from May 2023. Thank you. Any questions?
So
well, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Just quickly, this was something that Rob and I attended, which was a look at extreme climate change. What's the impact? It is feeding back into the city in terms of input on this stuff, including emergency response. I've had some discussions through the emergency response department at the city in terms of getting communities more involved, including getting volunteers to get training so they can be part of the reaction to the next derecho or the next flood. Not that we're going to get one, we are going to get one. So that's something to, we'll see where that one goes. All right, thank you very much, Pam. So on to the usual minutiae of, and by the way, the links you posted in the chat, they will be on the KBCA AGM page for 2025. So I will pull all the materials together. There's a lot more material that we're not presenting tonight, including some of the more formal reports. Basically, my report is to say the community centers continuing to see increased use. It keeps going up 10% a year. We've got summer tenants. In fact, it was amusing. We had, one of the major soccer communities were going to rent the place for the summer, and then they said, we found somewhere else. And then it turns out that the Mille Lacs Center is doing extensive renovations to the roof, so they booked us for the summer because they got nowhere else to go. So that will do wonders for our revenue. Renovations 25, 26, we'll go into that in a little bit. One of the things that we're starting discussion with the city is replacement of the community center, which is now quite the age. And the mall owner, Dave McKean, I have been talking to him, and he has approval to build a 3-story building of about 3 times the size where the community center is today. And he's basically looking to get the city as an anchor client to take 1 floor of that, which would be our new community center. So that would improve a lot of things that we just literally can't do in the building, like accessibility washrooms on the 2nd floor, physically impossible. Putting in a more accessible staircase, just not in the cards. So there's a lot of things that we're never going to be able to do with that building. So and the city, I've talked to Kathy Curry. She's very encouraged by this because it's all consistent with 15-minute walkability and regional community centers. So that certainly is going to be an ongoing topic. In community projects right now, the only thing we have going is cleanup. We will have the street party as we've done in the last 2 or 3 years. Have not got the kind of response I've been looking for on that, but I'm going to be doing some door knocking in the not too distant future. Certainly for the Saturday kickoff meeting, we're looking to get some more volunteers in terms of what to work Planning this year has been fairly light. 100 Stacy, the kind of site plan came in saying, here's what they're planning to do if and when they actually start to build. 100 Weeping Willow, they have approval to do what they want to do, but I heard nothing further in 2 years as to what they're planning on doing where the Varley apartments are. Nokia and Main are still, Nokia is moving ahead up March Road, looking to put in, brand new business facilities, plus up to 2,000 or 3,000 apartment units. The same thing opposite the street by a company out of Toronto, Main. They're both highly dependent on there being a bus rapid transit and LRT3. So some of that expansion for Kanata North is dependent on the federal and provincial government stepping up and delivering the transportation for the biggest business area in the city of Ottawa. FCA following along on the new official plan and transportation master plan. Again, there's not much on the cards for Kanata North or anything outside the Greenbelt to the west of Ottawa in terms of transportation, which is a little disappointing. So the focus still seems to be predominantly inside the Greenbelt and about travel within, the city core. So we're certainly not getting kind of attention that, given the growth and the potential growth, the tech park is talking about doubling in size in the next 25 years. That's another 30,000 employees. If you had families and everything else, we're talking about 125,000 people. But there's no transportation plan. The heritage study, I'm hoping to connect with the staff at the city as to what their next steps are. I have not heard back yet, but I'm sure they'll get back to me in the next week or two. We've done the usual. We had 2 elections in the space of a few months that we pulled together all candidates debates. We recorded those. Give you an idea, we had about 80 people watch the federal all candidates debate for Kanata North. By the time the election actually happened on the, was it Monday, Tuesday? 1,200 people have watched the recording. So a lot of people are interested in that kind of stuff. So that's largely what we've been doing. So again, one of the key focuses we've been looking at is continuing and getting funding for and planning the renovations. Again, volunteers, community, meet your neighbors, street parties, sustain Beaverbrook, Kanata North. Certainly the work that Rob has been doing with the green work has been tremendous. And we've had good response from newsletters, so we're going to continue that. We're looking to do some specialized newsletters and start doing some door-to-door. We're looking to recruit a treasurer, secretary, communications director, and also directors at large. Want to set up a director and volunteer mentor program. Basically, people want to come on board and want to know how do you get things done, which is largely about how to work with the city and get things approved. And at some point, replace me. I've been president of the KBCA for 10 years, and I've got other things, including a startup I may be involved in the next little while. So there's a more in-depth president's report, and that'll be posted on the webpage. So that's a summary of the president's report. Formally ask for a motion to approve the president's report. Peter? Seconded by Marianne. All in favor or any dissents? No, speak up or forever hold your peace. Treasurer report. Rental, again, it's been increasing since COVID. Rental rates we're having to now do inflationary increases for, so that's 3%. That will happen in September. As I said, we've got some plans, and I'll get into the details and the finances in a minute. Planning for 2025, which the KBCA will be putting money in our bank account strictly. So it's totally community funded for work in 2025, and a major capital grant, which we applied for, which is in process. And we're going to get it approved. And hopefully we'll be able to get the city to actually manage the work, which should offload a lot of the day-to-day management, project management. But we need more input on community projects, events and resources, because we've unfortunately, the renovation work has taken up so much of the board and volunteers' time that we've had very little time to plan any events. So to give you some idea, in 2024, our funding comes from a combination of what the city provides us, which is about $27,000 as an operating grant. And in 2024, we also got a capital grant or some from work we did in 2023. And facility rental is by far our biggest income, which is $40,000. So that's our revenues, which are quite good. Our expenses have certainly. We originally planned to do $30,000 worth of work of renovations in 2024, which we did not because we didn't have the grant for that work. One of the things that is certainly true is our cleaning costs have gone up substantially for two reasons. One is we've had to go to a professional, if low-cost firm. And the second is just the sheer volume of usage has increased our cleaning costs. And of course, that goes up by 4 to 5% a year, not by the 2 or 3%, which is the city grant increases. So we're still doing fine without spending any money on renovations in 2024. We actually have a positive income flow of $17,000. So we are, still getting, we're still in the positive and the money goes in the bank and we can do stuff with it. But at some point we may need to look at going back and asking for membership fees. We haven't charged for that in about 8 or 9 years because we've had sufficient income. But now that we're having to spend it in renovations for us to sponsor community events, we're going to have to look at that. So cash on hand, we have lots of cash to get renovations done. We have almost 90,000 Canadian. So we're planning a project, so we'll get into the details of that. So in terms of renovations, we're looking to redo the second floor boardroom and paint and carpet. And the same thing for the lounge. That also includes furniture. We're replacing all the boardroom tables and chairs. And in the lounge, we're going to bring in some new couches and tables and lamps to bring that up to speed. 2026 is going to be a wear and tear refresh. So we're looking at new flooring throughout, new paint throughout for anything that wasn't touched in previous years. We also need some light control. We had to get rid of the old blinds because they were just worn out on the west-facing wall because in the winter that can make a bit of a mess of somebody doing an art class because the sun's shining right in your eyes. So the next project, so $16,000 for the work in 2025, which will be funded by us. The work for 2026 is an guesstimate quote of $75,000, of which that's 50-50 split with the city. That puts us even post renovations. We still have $35,000 in reserve. So we're in good shape all the way around on the finance. In fact, we're having trouble spending it. That's the biggest problem. Two things we want to do tonight. One is to get approval to accept the treasurer's report. So if I could get a motion for that. Peter, seconder. Did someone speak up or raise a hand? Okay, Rob, second. Anybody not in favor? Speak up. Poke a stick. The other thing that we have been doing in the past is looking at the expenditures is to ask for approval for the expenditures we're talking about. So we're talking about 16 plus half of 30, 16 plus, let's call it $30,000. So we're looking at $46,000 in expenditure in 2025 and 2026. So looking to get approval for the budget. So again, could I have a motion, please? Marianne, seconder. Peter Chapin. Anybody not in favor? All right. So now we get down to the last part, which is the slate of officers. At this point, we have myself as president, Rob as vice president, vacant for treasurer, which we desperately need to fill the gap. Currently, I'm also the acting treasurer, which is why my time is kind of short. Tom Lawson, Kevin McCarthy, Katie Hoffman, and Peter Chapman. Peter Chapman and Katie joined us in the last 18 months. But we're also looking to invite and asking Pamela Jordan to step up as a cluster director. Who's also a new member of the KBCA. So, Pam, do you accept?
I do. Thank you.
All right. So, again, there's any call for any additional people who wish to volunteer for a board position or other officer position. If that's no surprise that nobody hitting the buzzer. So at this point, I'd like to look at a motion to accept the slate, including the addition of Pam Johnson. So if I could have a motion to accept that. Peter, get a seconder. Rob, the slate's the slate. So. And we're done. Any last minute items or topics that were not covered, or any last comments this evening?
Yeah, from Kevin McCarthy, one of the directors. I just like everybody to recognize and acknowledge that the board as a group decided that we would nominate our president, Neil, for the King Charles Coronation Medal. So we went about and put in his application, and he was awarded that. So congratulations, Neil, on that. You do us all proud by the work you do, and hopefully this is a bit of a recognition.
Yeah.
Thank you. So,
Well deserved.
now can I get a cup of coffee to go with that?
Yeah, well, thank you for all your hard work on this, Neil. It's very much appreciated by the
Well,
community.
I know Marianne's sponsored me for a similar kind of award to the Governor General's. Can't remember the exact name, but something along the same lines. And that was a number of years ago. So again, thank you for the support. Always appreciate it. And that's all I have for this evening. And again, it will be recorded and all the materials put together, including the more in-depth reports as opposed to just the slide presentations.